Lindisfarne, often called Holy Island, is a tidal island off the northeast coast of England. At low tide, a narrow causeway connects it to the mainland, but at high tide, it becomes isolated, surrounded by the cold, crashing waves of the North Sea. In 634, the Irish monk Saint Aidan, under the sponsorship of King Oswald of Northumbria, founded a monastery on Lindisfarne. This small outpost became a center of Christian learning. Monks copied and illuminated manuscripts, preserving knowledge in an age of darkness. A place of pilgrimage. The remains of St. Cuthbert, a revered bishop known for miracles, were housed there. A wealthy site. Over decades, English kings and nobles gifted the monastery with gold, silver, and precious books. By the late 8th century, Lindisfarne had become one of the most important Christian sites in Britain, but also an irresistible target for those who sought wealth and glory. Lindisfarne is often considered the first major Viking raid, but it was likely not the first Viking attack overall. There are reports of earlier Viking raids, such as in the year 789, a Viking attack on Portland, Dorset, England, where a group of Norsemen killed a royal official named Beduhard of Wessex, who tried to collect taxes from them. There was another possible event that happened in 792, a year before the Lindisfarne raid. Some sources suggest there may have been earlier raids in Ireland or Scotland. However, the Lindisfarne raid stands out because it targeted a highly significant Christian monastery. Shocking Europe and marking the beginning of the Viking Age, it was widely recorded by contemporary chroniclers, making it the most famous first Viking attack. In the months before the raid, strange omens were recorded in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, and by scholars like Alcuin of York. First of all, fiery dragons were seen in the skies, which was likely a comet or a meteor shower. Famine and disease spread across the land, seen as divine punishment, but was most likely just a coincidence. And lastly, storms and whirlwinds shook Northumbria, symbolizing an impending catastrophe. But in reality, it just meant that there was going to be a storm. But to the Christian Anglo-Saxons, these were clear warnings from God, but they could never have predicted the true horror that was about to unfold. To understand why this raid happened, we must look at the Vikings themselves. The attackers came from Scandinavia, modern-day Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. These were seafaring warriors who lived by a code of honor, strength, and plunder. Their society was built on raiding and warfare. Warriors sought drengskaper through battle. Wealth through conquest, gold, silver, and slaves were key to status. Pagan beliefs. They worshipped gods like Odin, Thor, and Freya. In the year 793, these fierce warriors turned their gaze to England, a land rich in treasure but poorly defended. On June 8, 793, at dawn, as the monks of Lindisfarne performed their morning prayers, shadows emerged on the horizon, longships cutting through the mist. Unlike the slow, bulky ships of the Anglo-Saxons, Viking longships were sleek and fast, able to strike suddenly and retreat just as quickly. Shallow-hulled, could land on beaches, rivers, and even marshes, carved with terrifying dragon heads, designed to strike fear into enemies. By the time the monks realized what was happening, it was too late. The Vikings stormed the beach, armed with iron swords, battle axes, and spears. The monks were cut down where they stood. When they arrived at the church, they smashed the doors open with their axes and killed the monks who were hiding here. Some monks were burned alive as the invaders set fire to the monastery. Others were taken as slaves, dragged to the ships in chains. Blood stained the holy altars. The Vikings showed no mercy. The Christian faith meant nothing to them. Once the defenders were dead or captured, the real work began: looting. Gold and silver relics were torn from altars. Jeweled crosses and chalices were stripped of their gemstones. The monastery's sacred books were either stolen or destroyed. Even the shrine of St. Cuthbert was pillaged, something that shocked all of Christendom. The news spread quickly across England and Europe. The scholar Alcuin of York serving in Charlemagne's court, wrote, "The heathens desecrated God's sanctuary, shed the blood of saints, and took captives. Who will not tremble at this?" For the Christian Anglo-Saxons, this was not just a raid. It was a sacrilege, a sign that God had abandoned them. Lindisfarne was only the beginning. Within years, the Vikings struck again. In 794, Jarrow, another major monastery, was raided. In 841, the first Viking settlements appeared in Ireland. In the year 865, probably one of the most famous invasions happened. The Great Heathen Army invaded England, beginning full-scale Norse conquest. The raid on Lindisfarne was not an isolated event. It was the spark that ignited the Viking Age. For years, the monks tried to rebuild, but by 875, repeated Viking raids forced them to abandon Lindisfarne forever. They carried St. Cuthbert's body with them, eventually settling in Durham, where his shrine remains to this day. Lindisfarne's sacred relics were lost, destroyed, or stolen. The attack on Lindisfarne marked the dawn of a new era. The Vikings became the dominant force in Europe, raiding, trading, and settling across England, Ireland, and France. Today, visitors can walk among the haunting ruins of Lindisfarne Priory, a silent testament to the violence of that terrible yet historical day.